Hey guys, Scott back again with a new beer dissection video. Let me get right to it on what I have for you. But from Ommegang Brewery in Cooperstown, New York, I have three Philosophers. Okay. If you're not familiar with Ommegang, they brew a lot of Belgian style beers, kind of like Allagash does. Obviously, domestic versions of Belgian style beers. This one is a quadruple ale. It's actually a quad or a Belgian quad is also Belgian dark strong ale. I do have a What Is Style video up there with a beer dissection of the famous West-Vlaanderen 12 Trappist beer. So if you are interested and you are a beer geek, I go into a lot of the history. I don't know if I put the shorter version up. There is a long version on there. You can kind of fast forward to where you would like to start viewing if you'd like to see that. But I go into a lot more about what a Belgian quad is, Belgian dark strong. So this is their version. However, what they've done is they've mixed it with a Kriek, K-R-I-E-K, I believe, if I'm spelling it properly. Kriek means cherry, I believe in Flemish, which is a dialect or of Dutch. And so you're going to have cherries with this Belgian dark strong, which I would think be a very good combination. A Belgian dark strong a lot of times will have a lot of dark fruit character. You may get a little bit of chocolate caramel, raisin fig, things like that with some cherry on there. It sounds like a great mix. Ommegang's they use Spalt, Steering Golding hops. If you go on their website, and I'm sure I'm having a pop over my shoulder in front of my face here as I'm doing this video, you can get the actual grist, which is, again, the recipe of the grains that they use. I'm not going to go into that right now. But it is along the lines of a Belgian dark strong or Belgian quad or quadruple. Other Belgian quads that are famous, the Chimay Blue Cap, Westmalle, I believe, makes one too. It's their 10 and 8. The Rochefort it's their 8 and 10. Westmalle, I'm not sure which one they make, but I believe they make a Belgian dark strong also. So if you're in their Belgian section, you can see that. But again, this one is kind of a hybrid using their house Belgian yeast, but also mixing it with the Kriek. Now, this is coming in like many Belgian styles at 9.7% alcohol, which is definitely very hefty. However, I'm sure if it is like a Belgian dark strong, it may not drink like a 9.7 like you'd see some of our crazy double and triple IPAs that are out there on the market, because if their yeast is very similar to Belgian yeast, it ferments out a lot of the sugars and it creates more of a drier beer. Or they will also use primarily like a Belgian dark candy sugar. I don't know. Again, I didn't look at the exact recipe for this particular beer. So when they use that Belgian light or dark candy sugar, it ferments most of those sugars out, plus the yeast itself. I should have said, because the yeast can kind of tolerate some of those higher alcohol levels, it kind of is a little bit more of a sturdier kind of yeast. So anyway, three Philosophers Belgian quad ale with Kriek. So it's a blend of quadruple ale and Kriek ale with cherries. Kriek is cherry, again, in I believe, Flemish. Okay, so there we go. Now, with something like this, if you don't have a goblet around, like if you drink Trappist beers or things like that, or Belgian-style Abbey beers, I would try to use something with a stem. This beer also, you may want to serve a little bit warmer, like closer to 50, 55 degrees. I say when in doubt, you could serve it a little bit colder and let it just warm up in the glass and kind of savor it as it gets warmer as time goes on, and notice the different changes to the flavor profile of this. Okay, so let's crack this bad boy open. Let me see if there's anything else on there. Rich complex. This tour de force is a blend of quad ale, authentic Belgian Kriek. As I said, it's malty depth and gentle sweetness, lively carbonation, and a touch of cherry. So just to kind of give you a little bit more on the, I try to have a can spinning, but sometimes you can't make it out if it's spinning too fast. So let's crack this bad boy open, as I always say. All right, it's pouring very nicely. And I'm not going to fill it all the way up here because I'll give it a second to settle down. I could see this thing's already very highly carbonated, and most Belgian styles are. You can see we have this, tan to light beige head. Got a couple of inches in there, which is great. Kind of got this cloudy, amber to copper color, medium, maybe even more of a medium to darker copper color beer. A little opaque. It's not clear through there, which I wouldn't expect too much when you're trying to mix kind of a Kriek with cherries in it, which has a lot of particulate and matter floating around in there. And if they sometimes with Belgian styles, they will use some wheat. Again, I didn't look very closely at the grist, and that will add some proteins to it also, as well as the Belgian style yeast in there. But something pretty typical. A lot of Belgian dark strongs sometimes look a little bit darker than this, but this is pretty close or within the range. All right, so let's take a sniff of the aroma. Oh, okay, yeah, so you kind of get a sense. Definitely you can kind of smell the alcohol coming off of this, almost like the density of like kind of wine that you get aroma, but there's also classic, you kind of get that dark fruit. Belgian yeast also produces a lot of phenolic character, sometimes peppery, which is what I'm getting, and the esters also from the Belgian yeast. But it is kind of like a raisin, plum, rum, kind of soaked fig, things like that. But you get the idea, kind of dark fruit, maybe a little bit of a subtle caramelization, but not like a English wee heavy or something like that, or Scottish ale. But kind of dark fruit, slight peppery, ester, and you may get a little bit of the cherry aroma from there, but very nice. But this is definitely a little more complex beer than your average, say brown ale or porter or things like that. But again, esters, raisin, fig, kind of like rummy, slight toffee kind of, but dark fruit flavors, and maybe even like kind of like a brown sugar smell aroma. But again, you do get those peppery phenols from it also. Okay. Anyway, guys, cheers. Let's take a swig of this. Oh, nice. Highly carbonated. Definitely in the Belgian range of carbonation. I don't know what the volumes of CO2 they're using, but they're probably upwards around 3.5 volumes, maybe even higher is what they typically will use. But I can kind of get on the front end, actually, as I'm sitting here, you kind of get a little bit of that alcoholic warmth at 9% or whatever. This is sitting just shy of 10%. That's normal. But you get that dark fruit, like a stewed raisin, plum, fig with like rum soaked taste. You still on the aftertaste, you get a little bit more of the phenols, the peppery, and there is a little tartness probably coming from the cherries. Now, I don't know if they're putting this in a secondary fermenter, laying on cherries, you're adding cherry puree. I may have to look at it a little bit closer, but you kind of get that hint of the cherry without a doubt. But not, it's very subtle. It's kind of brewed like the Belgian way. The Belgians like to add a lot of different spices and things to you, but they don't want you to know that you can actually take, something's there, but can't maybe ascertain exactly what it is. So if I didn't tell you there was cherry in this, you may take a second to pick it up. But you kind of get that dark fruit, subtle toffee, candied, brown sugary kind of flavor, but it's not sugary or those sweetness like it's a cloyingly sweet beer. It's actually quite dry, which they may use some of those sugars and the yeast will ferment out most of it anyway to keep it dry. But definitely dark fruit, plum, fig. But it definitely drinks a lot drier. You got to drink these very carefully though too. I'm looking at a 16-ounce can, about 10%. So sip it wisely. Again, like I said, highly carbonated, low bitterness, which you would expect. I wouldn't expect this much more than 10 to 20 IBUs. I think it's probably listed on the website somewhere. But very nice though. This is like, but again, just one last time there. You kind of get that fig caramel. This is, off the charts good type style of beer. And if you like Trappist beers or Abbey beers or Belgian style beers, this would be right up your alley. But it's darker, right? It's got that copper, light brown, darker amber color. But it does drink lighter than that. You're not going to get a roast like a porter or coffee or espresso like that. This is more kind of like the dark fruit category. Again, a little cherry in there, raisin, fig, plum, rum soaked, a little hot. I shouldn't say it's hot. You definitely get that alcoholic warmth. It's not stinging my taste buds like that. It's actually quite smooth and easy to drink. Even though I have to just sip this very slowly. Pairing with something like this, a beer like this, I like to just drink by itself. I don't think it really needs anything. But you know what? Lamb dishes, I think, would be very good, would stand up to this. Really dark, slow roasted meats with glazes on there and things like that. This will kind of has the carbonation to cut through it. Primarily, and it has those dark fruit flavors, like as if it was its own glaze itself. But outstanding, guys. I haven't had this in a while. I've had this before. I think it's been at least 2 to 3 years since I've had this. Again, Ommegang Brewery, known for their Belgian style beers. I think they make like a Saison style, so I would check them out if you haven't had any of their beers before. But again, this is a Belgian dark strong or quad style. Look at my what is or beer dissection videos if that does interest you. I do talk about the famous Westvleteren 12. Feel free to fast forward through sections, but I go into real deep detail on that style of beer. I am probably going to get a shorter version up there for those that just want a more concise thing. But because of the Westvleteren 12, you'll see why, and I explain if you watch a lot of that video why I spent a lot of time with that. So anyway, guys, this definitely gets an A+ in my books. It's kind of one of a kind beer, but it is readily available in most reputable local beer stores. Okay, so anyway, guys, 3 Philosophers Quadrupel Ale with a little bit of a Belgian Kriek cherries in this. Definitely recommend it. And if you've had it before, chime in. If you disagree with me, let me know too. I'd like to get all different types of stuff from you guys. All right, guys. Anyway, till the next beer dissection, what is style, or just general beer talk video, I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.